They left her in the snow like broken equipment. No ceremony. No regret. No second glance. And that was the moment humanity made its decision. The settlement lights of Ardent 9 flickered against the storm, thin yellow beams cutting through endless white. The wind howled across metal housing units and cargo towers, carrying ice sharp enough to slice exposed skin. 3 alien medical officers walked away from a fallen figure. Their movements were precise, controlled, logical. Behind them, half buried in snow, lay a young alien woman. Still breathing, but only barely. Across the frozen yard, Jonah Hale saw everything. Jonah was not important, not powerful, not wealthy. He was a supply technician for the human trade docks. He fixed broken loaders and replaced cracked oxygen seals. That was his life. But he had something rare on Ardent 9. He paid attention. He dropped his crate when he realized what he was seeing. The alien doctors, members of the Varel Syndicate, had stopped treating the woman. Their scanners blinked red. One of them made a short clicking sound, which Jonah's translator converted calmly. Patient prognosis. Inefficient. Resources better allocated elsewhere. And that was it. They walked away. Jonah ran. The cold clawed into his lungs. Snow crushed under his boots. His mind screamed that this was none of his business. The Varel were advanced. Ancient. Their medicine could rebuild organs in hours. If they gave up, then it was over. Right? He reached her. She was lighter than he expected. Pale blue skin. Thin frame. Strange markings across her temples glowing faintly. Her breath trembled like a flickering candle. Jonah looked toward the retreating alien doctors. "You're just leaving her," he shouted. One of them turned slightly. Treatment concluded. "She's alive. For now." Then they continued walking. Jonah stared at the woman. Her eyes fluttered open for half a second. They were silver. Not afraid. Just tired. That was enough. "Not today," Jonah whispered. He lifted her. She was freezing. His comm unit buzzed as he sprinted toward the human district. Warning, unauthorized biological contact detected. He ignored it. Ardent 9 was divided. The alien quarter had polished towers and advanced medbays. The human side had reinforced steel boxes and overworked heaters. Jonah kicked open the door to the only human medical station within 3 kilometers. Inside, Dr. Myra Kessler looked up from a cracked tablet. She froze. "Tell me that's not what I think it is." "She's dying." "That's a Varel." "I know. They don't share patients." She didn't get a choice. Myra moved instantly. Human doctors did not wait for permission. They cleared a table. Laid her down. Scanners activated. The readings were chaos. "Her organs are shutting down," Myra said. "There's a synthetic toxin in her blood." Jonah paced. "Can you fix it?" Myra hesitated. Human medicine was creative. Varel medicine was precise. This toxin? It was designed for Varel biology. "She's not fully Varel," Myra whispered suddenly. "What?" "Look at her DNA markers." Jonah didn't understand what he was seeing on the screen. Myra did. "She has human-compatible genetic strands." "That's impossible." "Apparently not." The toxin had been engineered to attack pure Varel neural structures. But she wasn't pure. Which meant, "It's misfiring," Myra said slowly. "It's attacking her, but not correctly." Jonah blinked. "Is that good?" "It's an opportunity." The woman convulsed. Monitors screamed. Her heart rhythm spiked violently. Myra grabbed a human antineurotoxin kit. "This has never been tested on Varel biology." Jonah swallowed. "She's already dying." Myra injected. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then everything happened. The woman's body arched off the table. Energy pulsed across her markings. Lights in the clinic flickered. Jonah stumbled back. Is that supposed to happen? No. The toxin reacted violently to the human compound. For a terrifying moment, Myra thought she had killed her. Then, the readings began to stabilize. Slowly, painfully, her breathing deepened. Heart rate normalized. Toxin levels began dropping. Myra stared at the monitor. That shouldn't work. Jonah let out a shaky laugh. Yeah. Humans hear that a lot. Outside, word spread quickly. The Varel learned within the hour. By sunrise, 3 Varel officials stood at the entrance of the human clinic. Jonah blocked the door. She's under human medical protection. The tallest Varel's voice was calm. That organism was declared non-viable. She's alive. For now. Jonah's jaw tightened. You don't get to decide who gets to live. A pause. Cold wind passed between them. You interfere with matters beyond your comprehension, human. Jonah met the alien's glowing eyes. Maybe. But we're really good at figuring things out. Inside, the woman's eyes opened again. This time fully. She looked at Myra. Then at Jonah. And for the first time, she spoke. In clear, steady galactic common. My name is Lyra. Her gaze hardened. And if they thought I was inefficient before, they have no idea what humanity just awakened. Outside, the storm intensified. But something else was rising too. Not just conflict. Not just tension. Hope. And the Varel had just made their greatest mistake. They underestimated humans. By the time the second storm rolled across Ardent 9, the human clinic was no longer just a clinic. It was a line in the sand. The Varel syndicate ships hovered silently above the settlement like polished knives in the sky. Their hulls reflected the pale sun, cold and flawless. They had not fired a shot. They did not need to. Pressure was their weapon. Inside the reinforced walls of the human medical station, Lyra sat upright on the examination table, pale but alive. Tubes and monitors were still connected to her, but her breathing was steady now. Stronger. Jonah stood near the doorway, arms crossed. He had not slept. Again. Dr. Myra Kessler studied Lyra's blood scan on the holoscreen. It's gone, Myra said quietly. Jonah looked up. The toxin. Destroyed. Not neutralized. Not suppressed. Destroyed. Lyra's silver eyes shimmered faintly. They did not expect that, she said. Her voice was softer now, but there was steel beneath it. Jonah stepped closer. Why did they poison you? Lyra did not answer immediately. She looked toward the ceiling, as if she could see through the metal roof and into the ships above. Because I am proof, she said at last. Proof of what? Myra asked. That perfection is fragile. The clinic grew quiet. Lyra lifted her hand slowly. The glowing markings on her temples pulsed faintly. The Varel believe themselves to be the final form of intelligent life, she explained. Pure logic. Pure order. No weakness. Jonah snorted softly. Yeah, I've met them. Lyra's lips twitched faintly. It might have been humor. They do not tolerate deviation. Myra leaned forward. You're not pure Varel. No. Human hybrid. Jonah asked carefully. Lyra nodded once. Decades ago, Varel scientists began studying humanity. Your species adapts too quickly. Survives too easily. You thrive in chaos. Jonah shrugged. We've had practice. They wanted to understand it, Lyra continued. To replicate it. Myra's eyes widened. You were engineered. I was designed. Silence fell heavy between them. They combined Varel neural precision with human adaptability, Lyra said. I was their success. And their problem, Jonah finished. Lyra met his gaze. Yes. Outside, heavy footsteps approached. Human security volunteers rushed to barricade the clinic entrance. A transmission crackled through the settlement loudspeakers. This is High Mediator Xiron of the Varel Syndicate. The hybrid designated Lyra is property of the Syndicate. Return her immediately. Jonah muttered, property. Myra's jaw tightened. Lyra's eyes darkened. I am not property, she said softly. The loudspeaker continued. Failure to comply will result in trade sanctions, resource withdrawal, and planetary access restrictions. That was the Varel way. Not violence. Control. Ardent 9 depended on Varel medical supplies, technology, and transport lanes. If they pulled out, the human settlement would suffer. Jonah felt the weight of it. This is because of me, Lyra whispered. No, Myra said firmly. This is because they're scared. Lyra looked at her, surprised. Myra crossed her arms. They built something they can't fully control. That scares them more than death. Lyra's markings brightened slightly. You are correct. Jonah walked to the window. Outside, humans were gathering. Mechanics, cargo loaders, miners, families. No one had told them to come. They just did. Because that was the human way. Why didn't their treatment work? Jonah asked. Lyra hesitated. Because their toxin was keyed to pure Varel neural architecture. But my mind does not follow pure logic. Her silver eyes flickered with intensity. I think differently. Myra smiled slightly. Human differently. Yes. Jonah turned back toward her. So they tried to erase the mistake. Lyra nodded once. The toxin was not meant to cure. It was meant to silence. Outside, the Varel mediator continued broadcasting warnings. Jonah's comm device buzzed again. Incoming transmission. Priority. Myra answered. A human administrator appeared on screen, face pale. They're cutting supply lines, he said. Oxygen shipments delayed. Medical exports suspended. Jonah cursed under his breath. Myra looked at Lyra. They're punishing the whole settlement. Lyra's hands tightened into fists. This is escalation. Jonah stepped closer to her. Can you help? Lyra looked uncertain for the first time. My neural architecture processes data differently than standard Varel systems. I can interface with their networks. Myra blinked. You mean hack them? Lyra tilted her head. Your term is accurate. Jonah grinned despite everything. Now we're talking. The clinic lights flickered again. Varel ships above shifted formation. Energy readings spiked. They're powering up, Myra said. Not weapons. Communications. A blockade. They would isolate the humans slowly. Suffocate them economically. Jonah looked around at the small clinic. The patched walls. The outdated equipment. Humans were not the strongest species. Not the fastest. Not the most advanced. But they were stubborn. And creative. Lyra slid off the examination table. You saved my life, she said quietly. Jonah shrugged. That's what we do. You acted without certainty. Without guaranteed success. Myra smiled faintly. Welcome to human medicine. Lyra stepped toward the central terminal. If I access their network, I can reveal internal records. Records of what? Jonah asked. The hybrid program. The toxin authorization. The decision to eliminate me. Myra's eyes widened. You mean expose them? Yes. Jonah's grin faded slightly. That'll make them angry. They are already angry. Outside, human citizens formed a protective ring around the clinic. No weapons raised. Just bodies. United. The Varel mediator's voice sharpened. Return the hybrid immediately. This is your final warning. Lyra placed her glowing hand on the human console. For the first time, she whispered, Varel systems will process chaos. Her markings flared bright white. The clinic monitors overloaded briefly, then stabilized. Data streams filled the screens. Encrypted Varel files unfolded. Jonah stared in awe. Lyra was inside their network. Not destroying. Revealing. On every public channel across Ardent 9, classified Varel documents appeared. Authorization orders. Hybrid experimentation logs. The Toxin Deployment Directive. Signed by High Mediator Zyron. Gasps echoed across the settlement. Even the Varel ships above hesitated. They had built perfection on secrecy. And humanity had just turned on the lights. Lyra swayed slightly. Myra rushed to steady her. "You're pushing too hard." Lyra smiled faintly. "Human adaptability," she whispered. Outside, the human crowd began cheering. Not because they had won, but because they had stood up. And they were still standing. Above, one Varel ship powered down. Then another. High Mediator Zyron's voice returned, no longer calm. "This action will have consequences." Jonah stepped outside into the snow. He looked up at the towering ships. "We're used to consequences," he called back. "And we're really good at surviving them." The wind howled. But this time, it did not feel so cold. Inside the clinic, Lyra closed her eyes briefly. The future was uncertain. The Varel would not forgive easily. But something irreversible had happened. Humanity had not bowed. They had not calculated. They had acted. And sometimes, that was stronger than perfection. The Varel did not fire. That was the terrifying part. They did not send soldiers. They did not deploy weapons. They did not shout threats again. They recalculated. And when a species built on pure logic recalculates you, it means one thing. You are no longer dismissed. Above Ardent 9, the remaining Varel ships shifted position into a silent triangular formation. Energy readings spiked across the settlement. Human comm networks flickered. Power grids trembled. Inside the clinic, Lyra's eyes snapped open. "They are isolating the planet," she said. Jonah frowned. "Define isolating." "Cutting us from external transit lanes. Blocking signals. Rewriting our access codes in the interstellar registry." Myra went pale. "They're erasing us." Lyra nodded slowly. "To them, this is not punishment. It is correction." Outside, human engineers scrambled toward the comm towers. Cargo crews rushed to the landing pads. Families gathered supplies. But there was no panic. There was something else. Focus. Jonah stepped to the center of the clinic. Options. Lyra's silver eyes flickered as data streamed across the holoscreen. "I cannot overpower them. Their fleet carries quantum encryption far beyond this colony's capability." Jonah exhaled slowly. "So we can't win a direct fight." Lyra looked at him. Humans rarely choose direct fights. A faint smile touched Myra's face. She turned to Jonah. "We don't need to beat their ships." Jonah's mind began turning. "We just need the rest of the galaxy watching." The Varel depended on reputation. Their authority rested on being the most stable, logical civilization in known space. If proof spread beyond Ardent 9, if other species saw that the Varel secretly engineered hybrids, then attempted to erase one, trust would fracture. Lyra's markings pulsed brighter. "They are blocking outgoing transmissions." Jonah leaned over the console. "But they're not blocking everything." Lyra tilted her head. "Explain." Jonah tapped into the settlement's industrial network. "You're looking at military encryption. Big channels. Trade lanes." He brought up a different map. "But nobody ever thinks about maintenance relays." Myra's eyes widened. "The mining drones." Jonah grinned. "Exactly." Ardent 9 exported rare mineral data constantly. Automated mining drones sent geological updates to dozens of systems every hour. It was boring data. No one bothered censoring it. Lyra understood instantly. "You want to embed evidence inside mining reports." Jonah nodded. Hide the truth in something nobody suspects. Myra laughed softly. That's brilliant. Lyra's silver eyes shone with something like awe. This is not how Varel minds operate. Yeah, Jonah said. We cheat creatively. Lyra moved to the console again. Her hands glowed brighter, syncing with the human system. I will compress the evidence into signal fluctuations inside the mining telemetry. Will it reach someone important? Myra asked. Lyra processed for a moment. Yes. 3 independent systems receive this data. One is the Ketheri assembly. Jonah blinked. The diplomatic watchdogs. Yes. Myra's smile widened. Perfect. Above them, Varel ships intensified the planetary isolation field. Signals began collapsing one by one. Jonah felt the pressure building. How long? He asked. 2 minutes, Lyra said calmly. Jonah swallowed. Then let's make it count. The clinic lights dimmed as power rerouted to the transmitters. Outside, human engineers manually aligned drone uplinks. Wind tore across the settlement. Varel ships radiated cold authority overhead. Lyra closed her eyes. Her hybrid mind processed at speeds neither human nor Varel alone could achieve. She layered files inside mineral density charts. Embedded toxin authorization codes inside seismic readings. Attached experiment logs to or purity scans. To the untrained eye, it would look like routine data. To the Ketheri assembly, it would be a scandal. Transmission ready, Lyra whispered. Jonah placed his hand on the console beside hers. Send it. The signal burst outward. Silent. Invisible. Gone. Above, the Varel fleet completed the isolation field. External communications dropped to 0. Ardent 9 was alone. But not silent. Minutes passed. The Varel mediator appeared on every public screen. You have resisted correction. This colony is now under review for compliance restructuring. Jonah stepped outside again, snow whipping across his coat. You think you can just erase us? He shouted upward. The mediator's voice was colder now. You are inefficient, disorderly, emotionally driven. Jonah smiled faintly. Yeah. Behind him, hundreds of humans stood shoulder to shoulder. Miners, mechanics, doctors, children. We're all that, he said. But we're also stubborn. The sky suddenly flashed. Not from Varel weapons. From something entering orbit. Another fleet. Different design. Angular. Bronze-hulled. Lyra rushed outside, eyes wide. The Ketheri, she breathed. Varel ships shifted defensively. A new transmission cut through the air. This is the Ketheri Assembly Oversight Fleet. Varel Syndicate vessels, you are ordered to stand down pending investigation into illegal bioengineering violations. The settlement went silent. Jonah exhaled slowly. It worked. Lyra's expression was unreadable. The Varel mediator hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty crept into their voice. You have misinterpreted internal development protocols. The Ketheri reply was sharp. We have received documented evidence. You will comply. Varel ships dimmed their energy fields. One by one. Slowly. The sky cleared. Humans began cheering. Not because they had destroyed a fleet. Not because they had conquered. But because they had refused to kneel. Lyra stepped forward, looking up at the retreating Varel vessels. They believed adaptability was inefficiency, she said quietly. Jonah stood beside her. They thought compassion was weakness. Myra joined them. They thought perfection meant control. Lyra turned toward the humans gathered behind her. But today, she said, voice steady, they recalculated. Snow fell softly around them. The Ketheri fleet held position in orbit. The Varel Syndicate had not been destroyed. But their image had cracked. And cracks spread. Lyra looked at Jonah. You risked your colony for me. Jonah shrugged. You were breathing. That was enough. He nodded. That's always enough. Lyra studied the humans around her. Their imperfect equipment. Their mismatched clothing. Their tired faces. And their unbreakable unity. You are not the strongest species, she said softly. Not the most advanced. Jonah smiled. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Lyra's silver eyes shimmered. But you are the most dangerous. Myra raised an eyebrow. Dangerous. To oppression, Lyra clarified. The wind calmed. The storm passed. For the first time since she had been left in the snow, Lyra felt something unfamiliar. Not calculation. Not programming. Choice. She stepped forward. I will remain here, she said. With humanity. Jonah blinked. You sure? She nodded. You saved me not because it was efficient. Not because it was logical. She looked out at the settlement. You saved me because it was right. Above them, the galaxy was watching. And for the first time, it understood something important. Humans were not perfect. They were not predictable. They were not logical. But when faced with impossible odds, they did not walk away. They stepped forward. And sometimes, that changed everything. The end.